Hello, and welcome to Emerge on the Real, Episode 3, a live discussion that highlights the impact of our program through the perspective of our students, community partners, and staff members. My name is Neil Kang, your host, and also the Development and Marketing Coordinator here at Emerge. And today we have two very, very special guests with us today. Our very own Emerge Manager of Persistence, Ivanna Crippa, and Emerge Spring Branch ISD Program Manager, Mayra Valle. Today, Ivanna and Mayra will talk about their roles and responsibilities at Emerge and the impact of COVID-19 on their work and their students. Ivanna, Mayra, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Happy to be here, Neil.
All right, so can you guys tell our audience a little bit about yourselves, how you ended up at Emerge, and why Emerge?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Ivanna Crippa, and I'm a manager of persistence with the College Success team here at Emerge. I have been a college access and success educator for the past 9 years. I'm the first in my family to graduate from high school and go on to college, so the mission means a lot to me. I believe in our students, I believe in their potential, and I believe that they fully deserve the opportunity to pursue higher education. I graduated from the University of Texas at Austin with my bachelor's in psychology and Latin American studies. And then I recently graduated with my master's in educational psychology. So I believe in the power of education and knowledge, and believe that our students deserve that opportunity.
Awesome. And pretty similarly, I actually grew up in Houston. So my name is Mayra Valle. I'm actually a academic program manager here in Houston. I work specifically in Spring Branch ISD, supporting students at Westchester and Northbrook specifically. What brought me to the work is really interesting because similar to Ivanna, I'm also a first-generation college student. Growing up on the north side of Houston, I had the luxury of living within 5, blocks of all of my family members, pretty much. My grandmother, grandfather, more than 43 first cousins, and 12 aunts and uncles. So we grew up with a lot of community, and I knew that going to college would only be feasible if I could see myself in a place that didn't always look like me, and a place where I would be able to build community immediately. So I got on the wrong bus, or maybe serendipitously the right bus, because during my prospective student weekend, there were posse students that had their own bus, and there was me. I went on that bus and actually ultimately made my decision to go to Connecticut College to get my degrees in Latin American Studies and dance, where I made lifelong friendships. After graduating, I went to graduate school, and then I joined the posse team here in Houston. I wanted to work with more talented and incredible young people outside of my 2 cohorts. And it felt like Emerge was a great space to immerse myself in all of the things that were happening in a bigger district. And I've loved it ever since.
Awesome. Well, I know you guys do a lot of amazing work at Emerge. Can you guys give our audience a brief description of your roles and responsibilities at Emerge?
Absolutely. So, as I mentioned before, I'm the manager of persistence with the College Success team, and I am super lucky and privileged because it's a really multifaceted role. It's ever changing and evolving, especially with the needs of our students. But I want to kind of divide it into 3 categories. So the first category is direct service. So that's the student-facing support that we provide our scholars, regardless of where they are in the nation. So we have over 1,200 students that we serve in the College Success team, and it's 3 managers of persistence serving those scholars. And we're divided up to regions. And I am in charge of supporting over 460 of those students, primarily in the Texas region. So with that direct service, I kind of coach and mentor our students with academic support, social emotional support, career, financial aid, and the A through Z of the in-between of what it means to be a college student on their campus. And in addition, the second part of our role is partnerships, college partnerships. It's really important for us to build that relationship with our college partners so we can help impact our students. And we really are strategic in working with key offices on those college campuses for them to have a sense of belonging and have an advocate, an adult on campus as soon as they enroll and matriculate. I want to definitely celebrate one of our key partners, the University of Texas at Austin. Mike, like me and him are constantly working and talking about our students, and similarly at U of H with Sean in the financial aid office, Dr. Jones and Monica Floyd. Like those are critical people on those campuses that are supporting our students graduate. And then a lot of data analysis. So kind of understanding why our students are matriculating to what campus and what persistence challenges they're facing, and kind of creating trends that really inform our work and how we advocate for resources for those students.
Yeah, and I feel like the work that our persistence managers do is huge, which puts a lot of pressure on me as a program manager, because I want my students to be ready for that level of incredible support that Ivanna was just talking about. Being that I do work with high school students, on the nonprofit side, we work with sophomores, juniors, and seniors across the districts. As of right now, Emerge is in 5 districts in Houston. I specifically work for Spring Branch ISD. In any given year, I'm working with about 60 students across 3 grade levels. When thinking about students that we're supporting, I think of it in 3 tiers, right? But all of it goes back to community building and relationship building. So part of my role is the student-facing side, the parent engagement side, and then the college advocacy piece. So with students, we are working with our students, providing individualized support, meeting bi-weekly to talk about general information about the college admission process. But we're also having really deep conversations about identity, how students feel about power dynamics as they affect them in the world. How might they affect them at school? And coming from Posse, I love being able to engage as a facilitator with students, and I try to bring that in so that students feel really comfortable engaging with each other and deepening those connections within their cohorts. Additionally, right, I know that students don't operate in a vacuum, and Emerge wasn't the one support system that's coming to save them, right? That is not my job. So I really try and do my best to honor the support system that existed before I got there. So I know that students had been immensely supported by their parents, their community members, their teachers. So a part of our day is also getting to connect with our families at least once a month via text, email, phone call. I've had parents call me and say, hey, you need to tell my student, to delve deeper in their personal statement, because, I think they can go a little deeper here. Or, if a student gets into a dream college, I'm texting their parents back and forth, like, how are you? Are you proud of them? Like, what does this mean for you? And then sometimes parents will just, contact us before the pandemic and say, hey, do you just want to come over for dinner? These are the relationships that we want to build, because students going out of state can be a huge move, and it can't happen if there isn't trust built there. So I think we really try to lean into that as Emerge, that we are just one piece of that support system for that student. In terms of college advocacy, we really want to make sure that at all points we are connecting with admissions representatives, giving them a better idea of what it is that we do, the holistic part of our process, and who our students are. They love our students, and part of it is because they've seen them do incredible things on campus, and they've opened themselves up to host information sessions for our students, specialized interviews. They're really, really supportive of our students, and we want to keep that going. So whenever they're in town, we really try and engage with them, whether that be going to lunch or chatting with them after a college fair event. We really want to invest in all 3 of those relationships.
Now in March, we were hit with the pandemic that impacted people all over the world. How are you and your students affected by COVID-19 specifically? And what support services have you been able to provide to our students during these unprecedented times?
Yeah, that I'll never forget March. It will be always engraved in my brain when we had to act really quickly when by their colleges that they had to go home. So one of the ways that primarily my colleagues Saida and Carlos addressed that was by flying the kids back home and supporting them with flights and emergency flights from all over the nation and storage needs and just providing funds that we were really surprised to find out about. Like the world was greatly impacted by this, and our students had to act really quickly to come back home. And so we were providing a lot of emergency funds for flights, basic needs from food, electricity, technology needs, academic supplies, because they had to just act really quickly. And every time that I meet with a college student now, I just tell them how much I admire them. And I'm in awe of their strength and resiliency, because a lot of them graduated and were not able to walk across a stage. And that is a huge moment for them and their families to be able to do that. But their dreams are still very real and very valid during this time. And they're still striving in going to these amazing institutions because they have that intrinsic want for an education. So our students have had to adjust to a new virtual world. So college looks very different for them. So they are either going in person, very limited in a safe way, wearing their mask, very small classes, or doing a hybrid option, or staying fully at home, like they're attending college from their childhood bedroom. If they have that privilege, right, of having some space for them to go. And we've acted really quickly and also worked with different community members to provide a space for our college students to go and study quietly if they needed that. So that is several ways that we've been able to just provide support for our college students.
Yeah, I think, I can't stress enough the work that our persistence managers do, like the fact that students were taking the leap to go somewhere totally different and going through this. A lot of my students were so grateful to the work that you do, Ivanna. So thank you for doing all of that. And agreed, I think March was incredibly difficult for a lot of our students, and I would say for staff as well. A lot of students were talking about not feeling their best, not being motivated to finish off the school year. For a lot of seniors, it felt like I'm sacrificing all of the important milestones, by not being able to go to prom, not being able to go to my graduation, not being able to hug my friends and really conclude that chapter of my life. In addition to really talking through the family challenges that they were going through. For some students, multiple generations had to live in the same home. Their parents may have been furloughed or laid off work, or the opposite, right? Their parents were exposing themselves to potential exposure to the virus because they were essential workers. So students had fear every time their parents would leave their house. For others, it was someone got laid off, so now the student is actually working as well. So that deeply impacted the work, because for me, it was all of the logistical stuff is important, but it's not going to come at the expense of how you are feeling in this moment. And luckily, Emerge had amazing resources. We always knew that Emerge is deeply connected with community members and organizations and charitable orgs, but this was a great way of being able to tap into those networks in support of our students. So some of our students were given emergency funds that really helped their families, whether it was getting groceries or offsetting medical costs or offsetting, the fact that a family member was not working in the people felt that love from Emerge. And in terms of, the things that we've been doing. There was a statistic that came out 2 weeks ago that said that across Texas, 300,000 students are unaccounted for. That is 300,000 students who did not go back to school this year across the state of Texas. And for me, it's been a pleasure to work with students because I never realized how much students looked forward to our sessions and looked forward to building community and being in the same space with their peers, because we're right now we're averaging out about 95% attendance for all of our students, which is huge, right? It's not at 100, but it is better than anything we could hope for given the situation that we've been in. Additionally, I've really been trying to meet my students where they are, right? We started an Instagram with just our group where I send updates and students are engaging on social media. Created a Bitmoji classroom that is really accessible to my visual learners. I've really tried to make it more user-friendly for them. And then across our side, our directors of districts have been able to host parent webinars once a month that engage with parents in a really intentional way. And every single survey at the end of those meetings just prove how much parents love, appreciate, and see the work that Emerge is doing and value that time to answer those questions that they may be too nervous to ask, or that they don't even know they have questions about. So I do think that Emerge has been using every piece to be able to continue to connect with our families and meet our families and students where they are.
I just want to remind our audience that we will have a Q&A session at the last about 5 minutes of the session. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to type them in the Facebook comment section. So with that being said, what would you guys think are some of the biggest needs of our students at this time?
That's a great question. Because our students are resilient, they're able to adjust, but something that's really important that we need to address is that part of being a college student is actually like the networks that you're building while you're on that college campus, right? So that social capital, because our students are not necessarily there right now, they're missing that. So we would love to build that for them. So we're building the community and sense of belonging within our Emerge scholars because of Emerge Connect and our different career series that we're launching this year. But we need more. We need more of those networks. So internship opportunities, different opportunities for them to learn from our bigger network outside of their college campus or in addition to it would be stellar. And we're also very much still in a pandemic. So with unemployment and people still getting sick, that is something that our scholars are still facing and their families are still facing every day. So additional funds for our scholars that may need emergency flights back or access to their books or technology, because technology this is our world now, right? So we want our scholars to have access to that and access to spaces for them to be able to study in. And something that is really a high need for our students is health insurance, especially now more than ever. Even though our students may be going to a school that meets 100% need, that the need is not cover health insurance. So health insurance can range from $1,500 to $4,000 for a scholar. And their financially does not cover that. And for a family that has expected family contribution of $0, $4,000 is a lot of money. And in Texas, they're not required to be insured, which is problematic, but because we have high rates of students getting sick. So those are kind of important needs that our students and families are needing right now.
Yeah, similarly, I think my suggestions are also really connected to finances. not directly, but students feel like it's inaccessible because of finances in some cases. So I would say mental health support is something that has come up a lot this year. And as a program manager, I'll step into some vulnerability and just say that the role sometimes feels right that as employees, we're at capacity in terms of time, right? A lot of things have to get done, but we only have a certain amount of time to do it in. This year, it's felt like it's not just about time, it's about training. And I don't know how to leverage that, because I know that I am not trained to support my students always when they are talking about, being stressed out, being anxious, especially that this year was an election year and they were in the middle of a pandemic and they're meeting with people who they've never seen in person. So I do think that all three of those pieces together have made for a recipe where students just feel disconnected and are really wanting to connect to each other, to resources, and to additional support. And what continues to be the deterrent is finances. For a lot of students, college is the first time that they are getting health insurance because they have to get health insurance to be on campus. So some of our students feel like those things are not accessible because they are not insured, that outside of school, they aren't able to get the training and the support that they need with the socio-emotional things that they're going through. I would say this year more than any year, I've had students say, today I'm just not motivated. And these are students who are always doing everything at 110% all the time. Students who are texting me saying, I know that you're not going to judge me and I know that you're going to be there for me, but I don't even know if I can say how I'm feeling out loud. I don't know how to articulate this feeling that I have. So I do think that financial support there could be great, and maybe expanding the scope of our emergency funds to cover that could be awesome. The other thing I would say is, because of the pandemic, I've been super grateful for having technology readily accessible to students. This is a true story. I've been super grateful for I've been super grateful to our campus champions and our counselors and the folks who work with Emerge and make the work happen, because I've asked to borrow laptops sometimes to work with students who don't have access to laptops. So I would walk into the Starbucks with a duffel bag with about 10 laptops that were, borrowed from a few people to allow students to use computers. And now I don't have that struggle, but I do have the struggle of working with students who don't feel like they have the technical and the technological literacy to know how to use the computers that they were given. So I think even training students during the summer, not just giving them the resource, but providing them the tools to really take advantage of that resource. Some of my meetings that students sign up for are about 30 minutes, but we extend it to an hour because 30 minutes was just dedicated to the technology. So I think that part has been an adjustment. And I hope that the accessibility to technology continues after the pandemic, because I do think that that's an area that we would love to keep.
Awesome. So we have about 3 minutes remaining before we go into our Q&A session. So we have about 2 more questions, or I have about 2 more questions that I want to ask you both. So as you guys know, we have a team, a village of Emerge supporters. So what is something that they can do to lend a hand or to help our Emerge students?
I think for the college success team, I think sharing your network, definitely like being part of our scholars' lives and sharing opportunities with them. Like I mentioned before, like that social capital right now is kind of missing for them because they're not able to be on that college campus. So share that network, like share a professional development opportunity with them, and even our staff. Like I would love to be part of that. But like those opportunities for them to intern at your company, or sharing opportunities with them, and funds, like we mentioned before, funds, because those are critical for them to have access to.
echo that. I think the mentoring program is incredible. I don't think our mentors know how excited our students are to meet with them. I was actually at the dentist the other day, and I didn't know that my dentist was an Emerge mentor. And that was a way that we connected. And he was like, I love the student that I'm working with. He's an HISD. Miss Trisha introduced me to that student. I can't imagine, that student feeling like they didn't have any networks going into pre-dentistry. So I would say expanding that level of mentorship. Every single person who's in the professional space, and even if you're not, you have something extremely valuable to contribute to the space, and our students want to hear it. So I would say, please get involved. If there are ways for you to get involved to support students, I would say the mentorship program. And I would say also, I don't know if we have, any ways to donate to the emergency fund, but that I think could be a way to expand that. Because as the world is changing, I think the needs of our students is changing. And a lot of it, I would say, is based on financial struggles too at times.
Awesome. Last question before we go to our Q&A. So what are some positive impacts of this new virtual reality that we are in? What are some things that you are able to do now that you probably wouldn't have been able to do before?
I love this question because of the size of the student network that we have, 1,200 students, although we would love to, we can't fly out to all of the campuses. So it's just 3 of us supporting 1,200 students. But this year, this is a silver lining. We had our first ever graduation celebration, y'all. Like, my heart exploded so many times because we were able to celebrate our class of 2016 like never before. And we had the legendary Dolores Huerta, oh my gosh, fangirl moment. She's my shiro. And Mayor Sylvester Turner joined us on the call. And would we have been able to do that before? I don't know. And we have just kind of gotten really creative with building spaces for our students to have a sense of belonging and community. So we send our monthly newsletter every month, but in addition, we also send college specific information to our scholars, but we've been really creative with engaging our scholars. So we had our fall kickoff with the Texas scholars, and then we had a Texas road trip. And we're just really trying to engage our students and have fun with them, like make sure that they know that we're here for them to build that trust and rapport. And then so there's been a really high increase of connection with them. We also are relaunching our Emerge Connect social media platform that is exclusively for our Emerge community. If you haven't joined, please join. But yeah, like over 610 scholars have joined, and we just want them to know that we are here for them, and we're seeing it. Like I checked in with a scholar the other day that was like, "Hey, Ivanna," and I was like, "Hey, how are you?" And she just wanted to check in and see how I was, and I was like, "You're checking in on me? I want to check in on you. Like, tell me about your organizations that you're joining and how is life for you?" So it's been really sweet. They just kind of like check in with me as needed. So I love that part of just being more accessible to them virtually.
For sure. I think for me in the role, the phrase "limitations are the pathways to creativity" has been proven very true during the pandemic. I feel like Emerge has met the challenge very well. On the nonprofit side and through the high school programming team, we've been able to do parent meetings once a month. So parents are able to directly plan for each month to support their students, answer any questions that they have, and really find a space to collaborate with other parents who may be fearful of early decision, of their student going out of state, the financial piece. They're seeing these schools that have a cost of attendance of over $70,000 a year, and they're connecting with parents who also share those fears. And Emerge is also providing them with the tools to look at financial aid packages and say, hey, this can still be feasible. We also have an emerging scholar series for our students, which has been incredible. Students have been able to attend information sessions. They've been able to get preparation for interviews and get access to interviews for top colleges. They've also had access to virtual fly-ins. Because of the pandemic, our students weren't able to visit those colleges during the summer like we would like them to, but Emerge got into their zone, and we were able to connect with all of our partners that we have, and the students have really thrived there. And what was great about it was it was open to juniors and seniors. So now we have juniors that are extra invested in the program because they now have a school that is exciting for them, and they haven't even become seniors yet. So that part's been really exciting for me as a program manager to look forward to for next year. In addition to that, computer access. I cannot tell you enough how exciting that was, because so many students, it wasn't that they were behind, it was that they didn't have a space to work on their materials because there was no place to do it except for their phones. So I did want to say that part's been really exciting. And on the program manager side, it's been really exciting to meet the kids where they are and create a Bitmoji classroom, create Google Classroom, create an Instagram page that students are actively connecting with. So I feel like it's really challenged us to meet our students where they are and where they need us to be speaking their same language.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and move on to the Q&A session from our audience. So if you guys have any questions for either Ivanna or Mayra, please feel free to type in your question in the Facebook chat. Okay, so question, what are some important traits to be a successful program manager?
Great question. You have to have empathy. Every student is their own world, and everyone has their own story. Just honoring that story and really listening to them. A lot of passion. This is not your normal 40 hours a week kind of gig. This is not I love waking up and just having a student meeting on my calendar pop up, because I'm yes, I'm excited to check in with Lucero. And then just being really ridiculously hilarious like I am. So yeah, sense of humor, have fun, love what you do and who you do it for.
Yes, I don't know how I'm going to follow that up, but I completely agree. I think when I joined Emerge, a lot of it was because I thought to myself, well, I'm working with students who are traditionally first gen, who grew up, who are high performing students. They're like me. And I was proven very wrong very quickly at Emerge. I don't think the students are like me at all. I think they are way better than me. I think they're incredible students who have a wealth of knowledge. And I'm truly just blessed to work with them. So I do think that the empathy piece is super important, because I really take their candor, their stories, and their narrative as a gift. Every single day, I get the gift of learning more about so-and-so. Flexibility, for sure. Not one day at Emerge is similar to the last day that you were there. And I think that's what makes the work really exciting. So be willing and lean into those moments of flexibility and adaptation. And I think Emerge really loves passionate people. I say this to my students sometimes. I feel like a big sister sometimes, and also like a mama bear. I want to be as supportive of them as I can be. And part of it is having those real chats with them about things that have nothing to do with college access, and connecting with their families and being there when they also have concerns or frustrations, and just being there to listen. So I think Emerge has been incredibly helpful for me to grow in empathy, compassion, and really accept anything and all of the things that students are willing to give. Because again, no day is the same at Emerge.
All right, we have time for one more question. So we have a question here. What challenges or obstacles do you anticipate in the upcoming year?
We're still very much in a pandemic, And I mentioned that our students and community is incredibly resilient and quick to adapt. But just because they have those strengths doesn't mean that we need to like take advantage of that. And this is mainly for the colleges. Like, I want colleges to make a decision about what modality, what college is going to look like, so our students have more time to make an informed decision with their family members and with themselves. So you're honoring that student's experience of what college is going to look like. Because if they don't have that time to process and understand, it's incredibly challenging for them. So really, I want colleges to honor our students' experience and make the best decision for the students.
For sure. I think some of the challenges have always been regarding time. And this year more than ever. I use the analogy of blue and grayscale. So sometimes, especially this year, I've had students say, I don't know if I want to commit to a school that I haven't seen yet. And it often feels like our students are seeing in grayscale, and I'm telling them, but the color blue exists. This is the color blue, and I promise it's beautiful, and there's so many hues to this blue. But if they haven't seen it, they don't know, one, that that's something to look into, and two, I completely understand the aversion to that calculated risk, right? So I would say, I think the students have loved attending fly-ins, opening some of those things up consistently for students who don't have access to be able to fly up to a campus, or if there are schools who don't cover those fees. I hope that that doesn't become a challenge with access to the virtual space. I think that this year, a lot of schools have gone test optional. So for the most part, before the pandemic, schools asked for students to report their ACT or their SAT scores. Because of the pandemic, they were able to meet students where they are and say, hey, you don't have to submit your scores this year. I do hope that that continues. I do hope that that continues because it's actually for schools to be more holistic in their admissions process. And there are some students who, for so many reasons, feel like they aren't great test takers, but they are students who would absolutely thrive on that campus. So I think continuing this would be awesome, and yeah, meeting the students where they are in that sense, I think would be great. Additionally, I think computer access, making sure that students have that, and it's not just a reaction to the situation, but I hope that this is a great space for folks to, a great time for folks to understand that students needed this accessibility from before the pandemic. So I think the challenge would be going back to a world that we've moved past, would be my fear.
Wow. As a host, I felt like an audience member. I learned so much today from you guys. That wraps it up for episode 3 of Emerge on the Reel with their special guests and very own Emerge staff members, Ivanna Crippa and Mayra Valle. Thank you to those who joined us for today's discussion. We hope you can join us again on our next episode. Mayra, Ivanna, thank you for joining us today.